Title: The Spirits of the Lost War. In the deep shadows of the Great Plains, the Tachekwa tribe thrived, a people bound by fierce honor and a reverence for the land. Their warriors were known for their unmatched valor, their bodies as strong as the earth they fought to protect. But there was another tribe, the Izahtuk, whose methods were more terrifying than any blade could ever be. They had forsaken the art of warfare with iron and blood, instead weaving a dark, ancient magic, one that summoned the spirits of the long dead, and with them, an unspeakable horror. The Izahtuk did not fight with weapons. They fought with memories, with the spectral power to drag their enemies back to their deepest, most twisted regrets, forcing them to relive their darkest moments until their minds broke and their will to live shattered. The war began when the Tachekwa discovered that the Izahtuk had crossed into their sacred lands, desecrating their homes and enslaving their people. It was a declaration of a war that would not be fought with arrows, but with something far more insidious: the war of the mind. The elders of the Tachekwa had long whispered of such a war, one in which the spirits of the past would rise, and the strongest warriors could be brought to their knees by their own tortured memories. The first clash between the two tribes came under the cover of a moonless night, the air thick with an oppressive stillness. From the hills, the Tachekwa warriors watched as the Izahtuk emerged from the fog. The figures were unnaturally silent, drifting forward like ghosts, their eyes hollow, their mouths sewn shut with ancient, ritualistic markings. As they drew closer, the Tachekwa felt it, a chill in the air, a sense that something was terribly wrong. Then came the chant, a low, mournful song, like the wind itself had come alive with the wails of the damned. The warriors of the Tachekwa turned in terror as the mist parted, revealing figures they thought they had long buried, their ancestors, their lost ones, the faces of the dead. Chief Taka stood firm, his spear in hand, though his heart began to falter as he saw the ghostly visage of his brother, Kanu, step forward. Kanu had been killed in battle years ago, but now he stood before Taka, his eyes hollow and filled with an unearthly sorrow. "You killed me," Kanu's voice rang out, a cruel mockery of his own. But the words were not spoken by Kanu. They were the voice of something far older, something far more dangerous. In the blink of an eye, Taka was no longer standing on the battlefield. He was alone in a dense forest, younger, wearing the garb of a boy once more. Before him, the river churned violently, a vision of his past, a moment from his childhood. He saw himself with Kanu, training, laughing by the water's edge. But something was wrong. Kanu was struggling, his arms flailing desperately as the water pulled him under. Taka reached out, but his hand passed through Kanu's ghostly form, cold as death itself. The river roared louder, the image of his brother sinking deeper. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the vision shifted, showing Taka's failure. He could not save Kanu. He could not even reach him. The boy in the water was drowning, and in that moment, he saw the truth. You were always too slow to save him. The world around him tilted, reality crumbling, and Taka felt the weight of his guilt crush him. His body, overwhelmed by the pain of regret, began to move against his will. His hand gripped his dagger, the cold steel pressing against his throat. He had failed his brother, failed his tribe, failed his ancestors. Before he could end it all, a scream echoed across the battlefield. Another warrior had fallen, his body twisted in anguish as he was trapped in his own personal hell. One by one, the Tachekwa warriors were subjected to the same nightmarish visions, each forced to confront their deepest fears, their most horrific memories. One man found himself reliving the moment his wife had been taken by a wild bear, hearing her screams echoing through the woods, feeling the unbearable agony of helplessness as he failed to protect her. Another warrior was pulled into his childhood home, where his father's accusing voice rang in his ears, telling him he was weak, that he would never live up to his name. Each time, the pain intensified. Each time, the soul was broken, the mind unraveled, and in the end, each warrior succumbed to the darkness, taking his own life to escape the torment. The survivors of the Tachekwa were few, and those who remained were driven by a singular purpose: to end this nightmare. They gathered, knowing there was only one way to break the curse. There was an ancient ritual, a ceremony that would sever the hold of the spirits, but it came at a terrible cost. To break the hold of the Izahtuk, one must offer a life. Not just any life, but a life given freely, a sacrifice to restore the balance. Chief Taka, now broken and weary from his endless torment, gathered the last of his warriors. They had no choice but to face the Izahtuk in their lair, a place where the spirits were strongest, where the veil between the living and the dead was thin. As they reached the heart of the Izahtuk encampment, the air grew thick with a suffocating fog. The ground itself seemed to pulse with the presence of something ancient and malevolent. The Izahtuk stood, draped in the tattered skins of their ancestors, their eyes glowing like embers from the depths of hell. Their leader, a towering figure with skin like cracked stone, stepped forward, his lips curling into a sinister smile. "You are too late," he hissed, his voice echoing with the weight of 1,000 lost souls. "You cannot escape the past. The spirits are already here. They are already inside you. The memories have already claimed you." Taka raised his spear, his grip tight. "We fight not for victory, but for our souls." The battle that ensued was no ordinary clash of warriors. The Izahtuk did not need to strike their foes. Their power was in the mind, in the soul, in the terrifying ability to twist memories and drag their enemies into their worst fears. The Tachekwa fought not against physical blows, but against the invisible forces clawing at their very sanity. Taka's mind was assaulted again by the vision of Kanu, his brother's face twisted in agony. But this time, Taka fought back. This time, he would not succumb. With a primal roar, he plunged his spear through the specter of his brother, shattering the vision. The ghost screamed, a deafening wail, before disintegrating into nothingness. One by one, the remaining Tachekwa warriors faced their pasts, confronting the ghosts that had haunted them for so long. They fought with their souls, tearing apart the illusions of their own despair until, finally, the leader of the Izahtuk was alone, his power broken. But even as the battle ended, even as the Izahtuk retreated, the Tachekwa knew the price of such a victory. The spirits of the dead did not simply disappear. They lingered, waiting for the next unwitting soul to wander too close. And so, every year, when the moon was at its darkest, the Tachekwa would gather around the fire, listening to the wind, knowing that the battle was never truly over. For the Izahtuk had not been destroyed. Their whispers lingered still, carried by the wind, echoing through the trees, waiting for another soul to hear them, and drag them back into the suffocating darkness of their own pasts.